how to tank. So I tried to make a video earlier, but I was having some technical difficulties. Hopefully I fixed them. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is Mystic Spear Hand. To unlock Mystic Spear Hand, you gotta progress the Melf story line. You have to do the Scaly Invaders quest. Um, mm, and you have to do the Monster Calling quest from Brant. You have to do those. And then you wait a few days, and then um, you go to Melv, and there's like a pus dragon. You fight it, either kill it or drive it away, and then talk to Sigurd afterwards. Don't let him escape, and exhaust his dialogue, and he will give you the Mystic Spear Hand. So, um, you know, so there's a particular skill we need to cover first. Mirror Shield. This thing is incredibly overpowered. It basically turns the game into baby mode for babies. If you don't like a challenge, just basically keep this up at all times. And you'll pretty much never die. Unless, of course, you're swarmed by a bunch of enemies and they keep stun locking you. Then you could die. But to circumvent that, we're making a guide on how to tank. So, uh, someone's calling me. Hold on. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, this turns the game into baby mode for babies. So if you don't like a challenge, just go ahead and use it. But we're not using it. And there's a couple more skills I want to talk about that I have a couple grievances with. This is Skull Splitter. This thing does a ton of damage. It's like the best DPS skill in the game. But there is a skill that does a little bit more damage than this, and that is the this Archimite. But the problem with this is that it consumes your entire stamina bar. It does a lot of damage, but it leaves you vulnerable to attacking. It's kind of lame. It's just better just to use this. So, yeah. Or if you're a warfarer, um, you can just do that. What I have. So now, there's two types of tanks. You could either be a warrior tank or a fighter tank. Fighters can block by default, and their equipment generally has more magic defense. than warriors, but warriors get more HP and more physical defense, so it kind of evens out. It's basically your preference. But yeah. So let's go over the weapon skills. And there's a couple weapon skills that we need to talk about for fighter and uh, warrior. They are basically provoking skills, and that is roar and shield summons. They both basically do the same thing. They draw aggro. I don't like using them because sometimes you have to use them several times for it to work. It's just a pain in the butt, really. So I just put damage skills on. But how are you supposed to draw aggro then? Well, it's very simple. Uh, with the um, with fighter, uh, there's an augment called provocation. It increases the likelihood of being targeted by foes. This you need rank 4 for fighter to get. So if there's that. And there's also a piece of equipment you can pick up.
The warfare is the ultimate vocation.
Which is one of these caves. One of these 5 caves. It could be this one. So just check them all. It don't take that long to check. But there is a ring you can get called the Ring of Disfavor, which increases the likelihood of being targeted by foes. If you or your pawn, that's being a tank, has both this and uh, the provoke augment on, then as long as they're in view of the monsters will pretty much be attacking the tank all the time. So make sure you use that in conjunction with the augment. And then you don't have to worry about shield summons or roar. And then you can actually worry about focusing on damaging the enemy. And next up, we're going to be talking about augments.
No need to overthink it. You can change it on a whim. You've naught to lose, and you must.
So first of all, you want metal. You unlock metal as level 2, rank 2 fighter. Increases your physical defense by about 100. It's pretty good. And then next, obviously provocation. This is the tank skill. Increases the likelihood of being targeted by foes. And the third one, Intrepidity. This is what I believe is essential for every arisen and pawn. Because it reduces the accumulation of the loss gauge when receiving damage. And yes, you do lose maximum health by taking damage. So this circumvents that. And if all your pawns, including and your arisen, have this skill, you can stay out for much longer and you won't have to worry about taking damage as much. And being the tank, you're going to be taking damage pretty much all the time, and that's going to leave you super vulnerable after encounters because you'll be taking a lot of damage, and this basically circumvents that. And um, now this one I have augments your knockdown power. This is because my tank is a warrior. Warriors have more health, so um, and they can knock down enemies. So yeah, that's why I'm using this. Um, Now I need to talk about striking and slashing. Slashing will ricochet off certain enemies because of their hard exterior. But if you use striking, then you can circumvent that. But if you're using slashing, like there's a particular type of Saurian that's resistant to slashing, that your slash attacks will just bounce right off. Just hit them in the tail, knock them over, and then use your heavy attack, and it'll do like an instant kill. So, and then another thing, you want vitality for your tank because that increases their maximum health. And then also, Patriotism. This increases your magic defense by like almost 100, so that's very useful, especially for your warriors, so they don't get as much damage from magic, which can be somewhat of a problem when fighting like dragons, but for the most part, you don't really need to worry about magic defense if you don't want to. There's other skills you could use. Now, as far as being a tank, like I said, you can be either fighter or warrior. I prefer warrior because they can knock enemies down, but we're gonna go over both anyway. So let's go over warrior first for skills. So we got raising sweep. This is for AoE. I mean, warriors inherently strike AoE anyway, but this gives them like a double strike like right away if you charge it, and it does a bit more damage than your regular attacks. So that's good. And since we need to hit air enemies sometimes, and uh, as a warrior, you need to knock things down. Use Heaven's Word Sunder. Now you could use Mountain Breaker. This is actually better if you are playing the tank and trying to knock the enemy down, or just want to knock the enemy down as like a warrior. You definitely want to use Mountain Breaker. On a pawn, it's not as useful because pawns will try to use it on smaller enemies and will completely whiff. So that's why you want. Oh, whoops. That's why you want Heaven's Word Sunder if your pawn is a tank. And then because it's warrior and they cannot block inherently, you want Tidal Wrath. This will enable them to block and then immediately punish the enemy afterward. It does a lot of damage, so that's very useful. And then the last one is pretty much what you want. I use Catapult Launch because it can be useful at times, but if you don't want to use that, you could probably use you could probably use this if someone can launch you into the air, or this if you want some more cleanse, or you can just straight up use this. But whatever you do, don't use this one, because this will completely drain your stamina as a warrior. It's garbage. It will leave you vulnerable and can very well get you killed in more difficult encounters. But that's up to you. Now, as a fighter, weapon skills, uh, for DPS, you definitely want this one. This is like the fighter's best move. It's amazing. So for AoE, you want Full Moon Slash because the fighters don't have AoE and they need AoE because a lot of times they're going to be surrounded. And then to hit enemies in the air, you want cloudward slash. And the last slot is just basically up to you. I like using launch board, but that's just me. But you could use shield pummel. This is really good. This will knock enemies down, stuff. It's really good. You could do counter slash if you want, but you don't really need it. Seeing you can block already. You could try perfect defense if uh, you're having troubles staying alive or whatever. But these are the skills I like to use. Now, like I said, shield summons and roar, they're pretty much useless. Sometimes you need to use it several times to gain the enemy's attention. I'd rather just DPS them down. Why bother trying to get their attention when you can just kill them? And if you use the provocation augment alongside
Leisure doing business.
Great, follow.
what is it? The Ring of Dismay. Oh, Ring of Disfavor. Alongside provocation, enemies are going to be targeting the tank all the time, so don't worry about it. Now there is one instance that might not happen because reasons. I gotta switch it back to warrior
Hoy! No need to overthink it.
to
You
show
can
this off.
change it on a whim.
This is a fun little thing you can do.
And you might even. Many thanks.
Now, I'm playing as warfare because uh, I, I like using a bow to hit down range enemies, and I like using Skull Splitter for DPS because the warrior Arc of Might is just awful.
The on path leads not to our destination.
So
If you would
I
prefer
don't know
to
if
explore,
anybody's like
another
noticed
choice.
this yet in the
The
game,
open
but
side
this is something I've
what
noticed.
to follow.
My friend actually did this before I did. Now, there's a trick you can do if you're like heavy or like overburdened or whatever, and you need to get to town really fast and you're playing a warrior. Uh, use Ravaging Lunge. It's amazing because you can just do this. Uh, kind of like a train. And it drains much slower than actually running.
Hang in there, Master. I'm coming to assist.
And see, the enemies are attacking me because I'm like way ahead. But as soon as she gets into view of the enemies, they're all attacking her,
I've done no better. Focus.
except for that one.
The battle continues. Well said.
And she will just like kill everything. So yeah, that's how good that combination is. You don't even need to worry about shield summons or roar. They're useless skills, and yeah, why bother using them when you can just kill the enemy? So I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll talk to you later.